Greetings, everybody. We are alive. We are live.
I want to take off from the carrier someday before I die. Strap that viper to catapult and watch that sucker fly.
All right. So I think Dizzy's aboard. Did I see her aboard, Dizzy?
Welcome aboard, Dizzy.
He is.
All right. All right. Oop, let me fix that. Don't let us forget to ask you about how you got your call sign.
Oh, dude.
And Badass is here. Great. I think we're about ready. So,
Welcome aboard, Badass.
Aboard indeed. So, so what we'll do is when the music fades. All right. Yeah. All right. So the intro music will hit. And have you had a chance to listen to any of our shows?
I have not.
Okay, so when the intro music fades, I'll play it for you real quick. What it'll sound like. It will find whatever. There I was. So when it fades to here.
Well, there I was crossing the pond, and you could see that I wasn't exactly fond.
So as soon as you hear him say, you could see that I wasn't exactly fond. That's when we would like for you to come in with your "So there I was" story.
Yeah.
Just hook them.
And give just like a couple sentences.
Yeah,
or
a few sentences just to hook them,
Yeah.
And then we'll introduce you, and we'll circle back to that story at some point during the show.
Good. So we're live right now on your channel, but then
we are, but this is not going to. None of this is going to hit the audio podcast that gets pushed out.
I've been working in the background. I had to sign into StreamYard and stuff, so it's been a little bit of a process here.
All right. Well, he's gone. I didn't kick him out. There he comes.
He's back.
I don't know what's going on.
Welcome back.
It's good to be back.
Could be anywhere.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
So that's it. And then at some point during the show, we will break for about a 2 to 3 minute commercial for FTIratings.com. When we do that, I'll do that and tell you when you get 2 minutes or whatever you want to make a head call or what have you.
Sounds good.
And we'll go from there. And if we somewhere about the 90-minute mark or so, we'll if we go that long, then we'll start landing the airplane, and we may at some point in the 45-minute range or so say, hey, thanks a lot. We'll talk to you next week. And
sure.
That's how we break it up into two separate weeks of shows because we were losing people we were doing 90-minute shows and losing people. So.
Got it.
All right. So awesome. All right. Let's see. I think that's about it. Any questions, comments?
I'm in the page where it says stream this to your audience. So I think I'm signing in through StreamYard, connected to my channel, and I'm making a title. There was podcast, and going from there.
Nice. I do not know why for some reason, we're not getting anybody on X, and that usually is a huge hit. So I don't know why Twitter's not getting viewers.
Twitter X may have
Someone go tweet that crap out.
It's
Elon's fault.
Right, exactly.
All right, so I'm going to jump off the stage here. So, Rob, just so you understand how it works, I'm in the background usually and pulling stuff up. So,
gotcha.
I'll still be here, but I'll be in the background. These two guys are better looking and have better voices for radio than I do.
It's true.
Yeah.
Not true.
I think he said we've got faces for radio, Fig.
Yeah, I did.
Exactly what he said.
So, all right. So, what else was I going to say?
Don't say fuck.
Okay, I won't fucking say that. Hey, Dick's. So I got all his pictures that he sent us. They're up there already. So you should see those in the branding.
And we are live on my channel right now, just so you guys know.
Awesome.
We're going.
Sierra Hotel. All right.
Not going to run.
All right. Well, here we go then. I just need to zero out my timer. And
Dan?
here we go.
This is kind of cool. I got
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
Hang on. I'll start it again. Go ahead.
I was just saying I've got a chat window open on the right, so I'll occasionally check back to my screen and see when any
Sierra
comments come in.
Hotel.
Yeah.
Lynn loves your vids. Sweet.
I don't know who Lynn is.
Yeah.
It
All right.
might be a robo.
No, there we go. Take 2.
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
This here is a true story about crossing the pond
Win.
at night in the world's smallest cockpit on the tanker through the weather. Oh, and to the tanker crew who did that, thanks a lot. We really appreciated that. I'm just kidding. No, I'm not. Well, there I was crossing the pond, and you could see that I wasn't exactly fond of all the
So there I was on the back of the USS Harry S. Truman, watching a bunch of Super Hornets take off, fully loaded, and middle of the Mediterranean Sea, next to my mom and dad, who had the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to join me on a deployed U.S. aircraft carrier.
Now that's
Oh.
how all cool aviation tales begin. Greetings, everybody. Repeat here, coming to you from New Hampshire. I think my co-host is home this week.
Yes, I am home convalescing, and it is our distinct pleasure to welcome RobRoy to our
Nice.
So There I Was podcast. Welcome, RobRoy.
Gents, pleasure to be here. And it's so funny. I always start a story, not necessarily with a "so there I was," but I'm always saying to my non-pilot friends, every great story starts with "so there I was" or "so there we were." And they look at me
That's
like,
right.
what are you talking about? I'm like, you guys don't get
Right.
it. But I'm glad
That's
to be
the
with my
thing.
people that finally speak that language.
We get it. That's
Yes.
right.
Yes.
That's why we're here.
So
Very cool
Rob
stuff.
RobRoy is a fellow naval aviator of the Navy flavor, and we're going to get to all of it. But can we start off with we usually ask, how did RobRoy get interested in flying airplanes? How did that
Oh
happen?
man, it's a pretty simple answer actually. My dad sat me down to watch Top Gun when I was 7 years old. I was born after the movie came out, full disclosure, but yeah, I vividly remember watching it. I mean, this is in the early 90s, big giant screen, TV with 4 feet deep. He had the latest surround sound, and I just remember that movie just rocking my world as a young kid, and it was the
Right.
beginning of a long. This is obviously pre what the internet is today, and trying to figure out, how do I become Maverick? Sure, but how do I become a Navy pilot? What does that look like? Okay, you have to get commissioned. Well, how do you get commissioned? What does that mean? Oh, ROTC, OCS, Naval Academy. What are my options? And just kind of started that whole
Yeah.
process from there. And I mean, grew up.
So you had
as a-
no aviation background
No.
from
No.
your family. Yeah,
No, my dad's
all
a-
from scratch.
yeah, truck manufacturer. And I mean, my grandfather was in the Army, and then the Air Force back around pre-Vietnam days and stuff. And then my uncle was enlisted Navy, but no real connection or ties to me whatsoever. So I basically came from a non-military background, and
Okay.
just fully went after it.
Well, that's
Nice.
awesome.
All right.
I can feel every bit of your pain, because I myself came from a family with no aviation background. I had to figure all this shit out on my own, just like you
Right,
did.
right.
Oh,
It was a
man.
great adventure, though, right?
Yeah, it's a good time. I mean, you learn on the fly, no pun intended. And
Yeah.
apologies to everyone listening. I seem to lost my voice last night, so I'm trying to get it back, but I'll try and make it a good show for you guys nonetheless.
Were you screaming
Yeah.
at the television broadcast of the election details? No,
was.
or yes.
I was screaming, but no, it's just the old fashioned got it from my wife, and then as an adult, when you get sick, I got 3 kids under 7, and when you get sick as an adult, you really get sick as an adult. It seems.
Yeah.
You pass that shit around. It's like
exactly.
It's good stuff.
Right.
Well, so what
walking
path
little
did you?
petri dishes.
Exactly. Yeah.
So RobRoy, what path did you take to get a commission in the Navy?
I went to the Naval Academy. I was class of 2011, the last real plebe
Knew
summer.
you. Nice.
What'd you say? What'd you say? The last.
The last real plebe summer. That's the good old. That's what every class says.
Okay.
You know
Okay.
All right.
Are you
Tell
familiar
us
with
about that?
military academy or Naval Academy or?
A little bit.
So-
Neither of us had the
Familiar,
pleasure
yes.
of going there, but we know what a
The
plebe
pleasure.
summer
Oh,
is.
you guys
so-
are so tactical with your wording.
Yeah.
You were the smarter ones who decided to not go there. That's genius.
Well, neither
so-
Repeat nor I both knew both of our parents, so we couldn't get in. But that's a whole nother
Yeah.
story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was
not smart enough to get in, and
I was a B+ student at best, and so I got lucky out somehow. But yeah. So when you're a freshman at one of the military academies, well, at least at West Point and Navy, you're called a plebe. I think Air Force is too.
Right.
Nicknames for each of the different class years, and so plebe summer is basically a boot camp. It's 8 weeks or so, and it is decently intense. I mean, it's not Marine Corps boot camp, 13, 14 weeks long and stuff, but it's the beginning of a long 4 years. And so when we say the last real plebe summer, it means like, hey, we were the last class that have it tough. But I mean, I've talked to guys that they were the last class that didn't have air conditioning, like in 2000, and then then they installed AC units in Bancroft Hall, like the huge dormitory, and they're like, well, you guys have it easy, you have AC. I mean, which is a real thing, in Maryland heat in the summertime. So every class, but I mean, that guy in 2000 is going to tell a war story where the guy from Vietnam era is going to talk about a guy in the 1910s who really they were getting smacked around the face. So that's just one of those things we say.
Well, it's funny you should bring that smacked in the face. One of our guests, who ended up retiring as a Marine Corps general, walked on to the Naval Academy the first day and said, "Hey, how you doing?" And the drill instructor punched him.
How you
right
doing,
in the
Sarge?
face.
Yep. I mean, yeah, that's back when ships were wood and men were steel.
60s. That was in the early 60s.
Exactly. That's my
by the
point.
way, he hitchhiked there
Yeah.
to start his freshman year. Oh my gosh. All right, so you graduated from the Naval Academy in, let's see, do my math, so 2015-ish?
I did,
May
no,
of
2011 I
16?
graduated. So I went there in 2007.
Class of
in
2011.
Yeah,
you
class of
graduated.
2011.
Okay,
Mhm.
sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
I did my math backwards.
That's all right. Yeah, like most pilots
So-
do. Yeah.
Obviously, went to
Go look that crayon off the
Pensacola.
window, Fig.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. I went,
Pensacola
yeah,
for to
Absolutely,
start the
yeah, I
whole
went to-
aviation experience off.
correct. Yeah, API in Pensacola, aviation pre-flight indoctrination. So I think I got a few weeks off after graduation, went down to Pensacola and did that for 2 or 3 months. I was in A pool for many, many weeks, kind of just waiting to go and showing up at 6 a.m. and clean shaven and a fresh set of khakis and just to make sure we're still alive. And did API and then finished that and then went to Corpus Christi, Texas for a primary in the T-34.
Okay. Repeat.
Nice.
were
So
you in Corpus?
VT-27.
Yeah.
VT-28, actually. The other one.
Oh,
Yeah, there are two. There's 27.
there was
28.
only one when I went there. It was the
Oh, yeah.
Boomers. 27
Yeah,
Boomers.
no, yeah,
So-
Boomers, and we were the Rangers.
Okay.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And then
Didn't know they were
from there,
pumping that many
you
guys through. Sweet.
You
All right.
selected props, I'm assuming.
No, they actually called it jets at the time. I mean, I
Oh,
selected,
shit. Okay.
which really is tailhook. I mean, but
Yeah,
they
there we
lived
go.
legit. They called it jets. I mean, so out of there had a above 50 NSS, the Navy standard score for those not familiar, and it was either got jets or tailhook in either Meridian, Mississippi, or Kingsville, Texas, and I had enough of Corpus Christi, Texas, so I didn't want to go somewhere necessarily worse, more in the middle of nowhere than Kingsville. So Mississippi's not necessarily a happening place, but I'm from Pennsylvania, so more trees and kind of greenery. And so went to Meridian and flew T-45s for a year.
So
And then
you
from
were an
there-
idiot.
Got voluntold to go E2C2, basically. And so and then just went back to Corpus, got winged in the T-44 at VT-31, repeat, and got winged in Corpus, and then went to the RAG/FRS up at VW-120 in Norfolk, Virginia.
Nice.
Norfolk.
Okay.
Okay.
And then,
And then go ahead,
so,
repeat.
so you flew the C2 or the E2 or both?
C2 Greyhound. Nope, just the COD.
Just the COD. Okay.
Mhm.
Well, tell people what the COD is. Sorry.
Yeah, it stands for carrier onboard delivery. So it is the platform that brings all the people and supplies onto the aircraft carriers. It still is kind of sort of, but that's quickly about to phase out, as I'm sure we're going to do.
Yeah. Aren't they they're replacing it with the Osprey?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Have been for some years now, but that's running into all kinds of issues, and
Yeah.
not just the obvious ones, but and then the C2. Here's a little fun fact. So C2s were, I think, the idea came up with them in the late 50s. First flight was 1964, I want to say, and so they flew in the 60s. My version, the ones we flew, this is in the 2015-ish era, were all built in the 80s. So they were, all the design is many years old, but they're already 30 years old by the time I got my hands on the yoke. And and then they do this thing, at least in the Navy, the term is called SLEP, SLEP, Service Life Extension Program. And then so they slept them, and then they did like a super slep. So they like did a double extension, and that was 9 years ago at this point. So I think they've done it maybe a third time even. So they've kept the C2 life going just because the Osprey's having so many issues. And you guys probably know what 10, 11 months ago, they had the mandatory stand down just because of the fatalities associated with the Osprey. And so, yeah, we'll see how much longer the C2 is flying, but it's continues to be the workhorse for the Navy.
That's a lot of moving parts.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. So
Wow.
kind of like the Harrier
All
is
right.
still flying though, right? That 15-year service life on that thing.
The Harrier
Started in the early 80s.
Yeah.
Oh,
there's two.
yeah, probably.
There's two
Yeah.
squadrons left. Our
Yeah.
old squadron is what is going to be the last one. I don't know.
Wow,
It's the
that's
luck
crazy.
of the draw. I know.
And then they're
So-
obviously going F-35 Bravos, I'm assuming, right? Just to transition.
Well, some
and-
squadrons are getting the C's. Believe it or not.
Yeah, but so would a Harrier squadron go C's?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, one of our squadron, one of the Marine
542
squadrons
did.
getting C's.
Wow. Yeah, I guess that may. I was on the
Blue
Teddy
Armor.
Roosevelt for my
Okay.
disassociated Sea tour, and there was an F-35 C Marine Corps squadron on there as well. Yeah.
You know what? I just lied. 542 is not C's. It's B's.
No,
It
they're
was an
B's,
F-18
but
squadron
the
next door.
The next
has
door
the Cs.
squadron was getting the C's. Yeah.
Yes, and it was a Hornet squadron before. I misspoke.
Yeah.
So you went to the RAG on the on the East Coast, and did you stay there for your fleet squadron?
I did. Yeah, I was in Norfolk, VW 120, and then I selected C2s out of right away as soon as we got to the RAG, and finished 120. Well, I guess we all finished it, but once I graduated 120, I just stayed at literally went 3 hangars down to VRC 40, the Rawhides in Norfolk.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And how long were you? How long was it before you did your first pump?
I was with the Rawhides for 3 years, and I think we did a deployment. It was like a year and a quarter, a year and a half in, something to that effect. At least a year before, and a little bit of workups. But in the C2 world, we don't necessarily have the workups that the jet guys do because we're. And here's a fun fact with the
That's
C2.
all you do.
Right, exactly. I mean, we're always hitting the carrier. We're always landing on the carrier, and I don't know how many carriers I've landed on, but a bunch, like 8. And the reason for that is because, as you guys know, but maybe our listeners don't, when the ships East Coast or West Coast, the carriers pull out, they might pull out for a week at a time or a month at a time or 2 weeks here, 2 weeks there, and we still service that ship and land on it. So, we'll fly to like the Ford one day and then the Bush the other. And then, the following week it's, whatever, the Lincoln. Even though I deployed with the Harry S. Truman strike group. But, we basically get our practice in just landing on any carrier that's, 20 or not 20, but like 100 miles off the coast.
Oh.
Yeah.
I didn't really think about that.
Mhm.
There's a boat going
Yeah,
by. Go hit it.
Yeah. Yeah. Basically. I mean, because
Right.
I'm not a logistics expert from like a ship standpoint, but I mean, they huge warship, 5,000 people capacity, right? But they pull out with 1,000 or 500, I don't know, but 2,000 just for a couple weeks. They're still going to need replenishment, or a lot of times they want people to fly out to the carrier, like DVs, especially distinguished visitors. They want them to be flown out rather than just walk on. So we would always do that. Like they would literally pull out the morning of, and we would hit them in the afternoon, 50 miles off the coast or what have you.
Okay.
Just for that experience.
So Name some names. Who's the most DV
Oh,
you flew?
Who's the biggest D of the V's you've
yeah,
ever
right.
hauled?
Yeah, exactly. No one that anybody would know, and I don't even remember the names. I mean, I flew some pretty high NATO people from some Eastern European countries, and we flew on. I think the president of Djibouti. Or did he helo on? I don't know, but I mean, some of my former squadron mates flew on, celebrities, and in the cockpit with whoever. But
Sure.
when I was, and we did fly. I mean, I flew on honestly a lot of just average DVs, which were great. I mean, like the teachers that got some amazing opportunity, like a program,
Nice.
or maybe like certainly like the senators and the congressmen, but maybe a local business owner. And there is such a thing as a list to get on to a DV flight. Which is one of the interesting parts about, I was saying earlier, so there I was with my parents, getting them on board. That was that's actually, and for my audience watching this right now live, that's the next video that's going to be released in a couple of days on my channel on Saturday morning, is the whole story of how I got my parents onto the carrier. But yeah, if you, I wouldn't even say if you're anybody, if you can get access to this magical list, you can get on it. It's just many, many years long. And now that the
I've been
C2's
on a list
retiring-
for a long time, but I don't think that's the right one. But
yeah.
no,
probably
okay.
not.
Before
It's a different
before you go
list,
any
bro.
further, how about telling the audience where your YouTube channel is so they can go see that?
Sure. Yeah. If you go to youtube.com/@FlyRobRoy, so the @ symbol and then fly ROBROY, you can find me, or you can just go to YouTube and type in Rob Roy. Do Rob Roy Navy, because for those in the know, Rob Roy was a very famous Scotsman of the McGregor clan.
RobRoy the Greca.
Yeah, I'm not related, unfortunately. If any Scots watching this, I identify as Scottish, but I'm not necessarily Scottish.
There you go.
But yeah, so Rob Roy's pretty famous from many hundreds of years ago, but that is my real name and not a call sign.
Okay. That's quite the cookie duster on your logo there.
Yeah, exactly.
Put that back up for a second, Sticks. Where's that? It goes. We'll get that in the.
Oh,
there
yeah.
too.
That's an impressive mustache that you're sporting in these. in these
The
pictures.
cartoon one or the actual photo?
No,
the cartoon
you
one's
know.
very impressive. The one that
Yeah, the
was
cartoon
drawn
was very impressive as well.
was very cartoonish. Yeah, I call that mustachio. I had a guy, he does airplane drawings, and he sent that to me. And I gave him a few revisions because I was like, hey, like this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. It's just but yeah. So the mustache thing. I mean, the funny part about the mustache is that I'll be the first to admit it's not necessarily that impressive. I mean, I only had it for about 2 months on deployment. I mean, I got tired of growing it out, and so I shaved it off. But for some reason, I have thousands upon thousands of comments about my mustache. It's just because when I recorded these videos on the Truman, like November to January of this one year, I had a mustache. It just happened to be what it was rocking. And man, had I known it would become a thing and garner millions and millions of views, I would have absolutely capitalized on that opportunity and maybe make it part of my personality. But yeah, the reason for the mustache is, and for the non-boat people listening, carrier, pilots, when you're on deployment, you get pretty bored. Even though you're flying off the ship every day, it's still, very mundane. And one of the things that we do is we grow a deployment stash. So there's 2 times that any naval aviator really grows a mustache, at least in my experience and my training. One is when you're going to do CQ for the first time. So your first carrier qualification. And then 2 is when you're underway. Really, it's just because you're bored. And so one of the videos, I don't know, one of my recent ones, there's a guy, and he's more redhead, like a reddish mustache, and his is absolutely impressive. I mean, he grew that thing for like a year plus, and by impressive I mean within the realms of Navy regulations, and like people are like, hey, like trim that mustache, don't let me see it. But I mean, it was like, for not being a black hair mustache, it was gnarly. Mine was just, I was just bored, and I was like, I look like a not a great personality, like hide your kids kind of guy, and so I just shaved it off. I didn't think I looked very flattering with it, but yeah, it's something we we emulate, and it becomes this competition on the carrier too, like who can grow the best mustache.
Of course.
I just threw in the towel early.
Oh, funny. You look like one of those guys who could just grunt hard and squeeze out a mustache and beard.
Yeah, probably. I mean, it doesn't take long, a couple of days, but yeah, I more now in civilian life, I'm more like rocking the beard and whatnot. But I thought about doing the mustache today, but I just can't. I think it's one thing in uniform when you're surrounded by your peers that also have a mustache in uniform. You're like, okay, there's some. But if I'm not the guy to have a mustache walking around town to Costco and whatnot. I
There
can't
you
live with myself.
Hey, ladies.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, RobRoy, you got you did one tour in the COD in your first
Mhm.
squadron, and then did
Mhm.
you? And then what did that look like? Did you leave to be an instructor? Did you
Yeah.
go to another squadron, or what's
So
your?
I went after that. I only did one tour, one 6 month that turned into a 7 month that turned into an 8 month deployment, classic Navy. And that was back then. Now it's even worse. I mean, it seems like every deployment they're winning some award for longest
Yeah.
time underway, which is
You'll
not an
get
award.
back when we bring you back, and
Yeah,
like
and
it.
it's not an award that I want to win. After that, I really wanted jets. I mean, I when I said Maverick and Top Gun early on, I mean, I meant it. Like, I want to be a fighter pilot. And, when you graduate from the Naval Academy, you just get a pilot slot. So I was not a Naval Flight Officer selectee. I was a pilot selectee. And as you guys know, we don't know in primary and intermediate and advanced. And then once I got voluntold to go E2, C2, that dream never died. So to answer your question,
Right.
Fig, I, was flying the C2 and I kept applying to transition to Hornets. I applied for, I think I did fighters initially with the first 3 applications, and then maybe switch to growlers at the end because I heard that like growlers were hurting really bad and whatnot, which, very much a side note. And you talk about the best gig in the Navy. I mean, some people say that mine was, but I mean, if you want to fly jets, the growlers is the way to go because you're in Whidbey Island. It's beautiful up there. And that's where their RAG is. That's where every single squadron is, as far as I know to this day. So they're never going to, Lemoore, California. They're never going somewhere else, but they're deploying with carriers on both coasts. Anyway, so I kept applying for Hornets and didn't get it. And whether or not it's true, I believe it to be true that it's not so much that I couldn't get jets because it's not necessarily hard to do that because I was already a tailhook aviator. It's that the C2 community didn't want to let me go. And I only know one other C2 guy that got Hornets, and he applied 5 times, which is like once every year. And that's a lot because then when you get it, you actually transition. You would go back to you go back to T45 land for a few months, and then you go to the RAG, and you're as basically an 04 select. You are starting all over, and that's really hard. So I wanted Hornets and didn't get it. And at that point, I was like, okay, well, I'm done with the Navy in my mind, but I still have many more years left in my contract. So I had this gig lined up in Rota, Spain. I was talking to the detailer about, and I was on the phone with the XO, and he's like, yeah, we'll take you. And detailer was like, nope. And then I was like talking to the skipper and XO of the Oregon State ROTC unit because I was like, I'm from Pennsylvania and I've been on the East Coast my whole life and want to go out west. And detailer was like, nope. And then I found out there's one American Navy guy that flies T-34s in Argentina. And it's like, you and your family can go to Argentina. And I'm fluent in Spanish. Like, I'm pretty decently fluent for
you can't go there
not
then.
being Latino. Well, my point, I was like, I've got like, I'll do the language school to get like, extra proficient.
Yeah.
But I was like, man, Argentina, like on the Navy's dime, flying T-34, sure. Like, I'll do that. Detailer was like, nope. And I'm talking like these PRDs lined up, like the projected rotation dates were all like right there. Detailer was like, nope, Meridian or Kingsville. And I'm like, I don't want it. He's like, well, you'll get jets if you go to one of those. I'm like, you have no way to guarantee that I will get selected for Hornets, and because they're all liars. And even though like this, I mean, he was lieutenant, I was lieutenant, but like they don't care. No. So I was like, no. And he got pissed. And then he's like, okay, you have 24 hours to decide. I found a spot at the Naval Academy on staff, not teaching, just like commandant staff or Meridian. And so my wife and I, we talked about it. We got married in Annapolis at the chapel. So we went to the academy and worked on staff. And so I gave up flying to go do that. Very fortuitous. We had a crazy birth experience of our firstborn son. I mean, he was medevaced to the NICU of a helicopter and, spent a week in the NICU. And so we kind of blessings that and that was at Children's National. So like, okay, well, had this been in Meridian, Mississippi, I don't know that it would have gone that well. So, everything happens for a reason. And then from there, I went, did 3 years of the academy and had a good time, helped out with a parachute team that I was the officer representative for when I was on that as a midshipman, and did some things behind the scenes, and unfortunately gave up wearing a flight suit for 3 years, which was not fun. And then I did a dissociated sea tour in Washington State for a admiral on his staff.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
No, it's not. It
Stuff.
sounds exciting, but yeah, he's the guy in charge. I'm just the yes, sir, man.
Well, there's that. So, oh man. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to get a little bit more into that. However, I think we should probably take just a quick moment to thank the folks over at FTIratings.com who support the show and bring these shows to you. So. Greetings to all you future airline pilots. Repeat here from So There I Was. And if you've ever aspired to pilot a commercial jet, you've got to hear about Flight Training International. Since 1993, FTI has been the front line in transforming capable military pilots into world-class commercial aviators. What sets FTI apart? Well, first off, they're simulators. We're talking full-motion FAA-certified rigs that replicate everything from an A330 to a Boeing 777. These are the same simulators used by the big names in flying, Airbus, Boeing, you name it, ensuring you train under the most realistic conditions possible. FTI's story starts with its founders, all veterans who knew the struggles of transitioning to a commercial aviation job firsthand. They experienced the inefficiencies of the traditional path and decided to forge a new one, focusing exclusively on what it takes to pilot large airliners. No more underwhelming sessions in light twins. At FTI, you train in the big leagues. Every instructor at FTI is a seasoned commercial pilot, equipped with decades of experience in both military and commercial sectors. These aren't just teachers, though. They're mentors who have navigated the very skies that you aim to conquer. They understand the complexities of modern aircraft and global routes, ensuring that you're not just certified, but truly prepared for anything the job throws your way. And there's more. FTI's training programs are meticulously crafted to accommodate your schedule. Their courses are available via an innovative iPad app, allowing you to study anytime, anywhere. Whether you're on a boat, overseas, or relaxing at home, FTI brings the classroom to you. So here's the coolest part, though. You can use your VA benefits to pay your tuition at FTI. And if you mention So There I Was when you register, you'll receive $100 off your first course. Whether you're eyeing a type rating or the ATP certificate, FTI is your gateway to the big time. Visit FTIratings.com to start your journey. Remember, that's FTIratings.com. Flight Training International, where your career ascension begins. Awesome. Well, okay.
Woo!
We're back.
Double hit on that. It
felt
got
it.
caught in a loop or something there. Yeah. Have to edit that
I
crap
felt
out.
the jet wash off that thing when it went
Right?
by.
Yeah. So, all right. So, I want to thank FTI. They've been a sponsor for quite a while now, and we are deeply grateful for them to keep helping us out. So, a couple questions in the comments, then we'll move back on. Kind of a silly one. Ever fly in a kilt?
Oh man, no. Wouldn't be maybe someday. I don't know.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
No, I wish I was Scottish. I mean, my brother took one of those blood
There you
tests, and supposedly there's a percentage there. But I mean, as an American, I mean, of all the other countries out there, I mean, Scottish people are like my people. You know, always like fighting the British. And I mean, look at our story with founding fathers. So yeah, I very much love. And I've been to Scotland. Actually, and I've been to RobRoy's graveyard too. It says his last name was McGregor, and his tombstone. It's not really a tombstone, but the wording above it says McGregor, despite them, as like a big fu to the British. So I just, I'm like, yeah, that guy. All right. Yeah.
Well, what a great segue. How did you end up with the call sign RobRoy?
It's not. It's my real name. Yeah. No, it's my name. Yeah, that is my birth name.
So
RobRoy?
Yeah, RobRoy. I mean Robert Roy, but yeah, I mean, yeah.
Well, that's fucking great.
So you never had a call sign. They just called you RobRoy.
I had a call sign, and my call sign is Potts.
All right.
Pissed off the skipper, which is a good story. But yeah, I feel like here it comes. But because my name is so catchy, everyone just called me RobRoy. I mean, I remember teachers in 7th grade like, you know, Katie, Michael, RobRoy. And I'm like, you just call me Rob. Like, it's Rob. Like, it just flows off the tongue.
Yeah.
You know?
RobRoy.
Yeah. I mean, helmet is just RobRoy. And I earned my call sign late in my squadron days. I forgot the call sign. The C2 community can be not great at assigning call signs. I don't know why. Maybe it's changed, but I mean, Hornet guys do it right. I mean, we would fly under the carrier, and I would be meeting a 1-star, and he'd be like, "Hey, whoever, right? Puddles, or
Yeah.
oh, hey," and he's like, "Don't call me, just call me Puddles." Okay, oh, yes, sir. No, Puddles. And I'm like, "Well, I'm Rob." Like I think I had a call sign. It was literally pulled out of a hat, and which is stupid. That's not how you do it.
Right.
That's just how it was done for some reason. And me being me and a kind of a go-getter, like I'm like, if I was the skipper, like we wouldn't do it this way. So I eventually did earn my call sign for doing something. But the C2 community is not great. Great, so many things. Call sign assigning, not so much. I don't know why that is. We have a lot of prior enlisted in our ranks. I say we. I'm not active anymore, and so to them it's like, whatever. But like the Hornet guys, they're all about. Even the E2 squadron too. They're call sign galore. And I would say us and the Hilo guys, the Hilo Bubbos, are not really great with call signs as a whole. I mean, we do get them. It's just not like there are such things like a formal events as like a call sign review board, and I never really got one. Like it wasn't a thing. But like Hornet guys, like they will go and do a dining out and have a call sign review board for the 5 new guys, and it's I just love that stuff with tradition and naval aviation.
All right, so I gotta ask, how'd you get
Here it comes,
POTS?
Vic. Yeah.
How did that happen?
Well, it comes with, the beginning of that story. So there I was and had my parents on an aircraft carrier in the middle of the Med with a bunch of Hornets taken off. I mean, do we want to go into it now? Is that
Sure.
I don't mess with the show for that.
Yeah.
So I'll back it up here. Let me pull this off the wall. Actually,
all right, here it comes.
So,
take your time.
I've got a wall here. I don't really put this in all the videos, obviously, because I'm not that guy, but this is my bail mat. Really nice from my squadron. Nice. And sometimes people sign it on the front, but when I was going through, we kind of sign it on the back. So if somebody writes something not so nice, your wife doesn't see it every time she walks by. So got a bunch of signatures on here.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
And one of them from my old commanding officer, who did not give me POTS, but he was the guy. He was the skipper I pissed off. He signed on there, and this is full circle with the Naval Academy. So at this point, I'm leaving VRC 40. I already pissed off the skipper, and I'm going to the Naval Academy. And also, I pissed him off because I wanted to go Hornets. And to them, they're kind of like, if you guys, I'm not sure how they do in the Marine Corps and whatnot, but
traitor.
Exactly. Like you're kind of like, you're leaving us. And I'm like, well, the C2 sundowning, like this is 2017. Like I don't want the Osprey because it was going to happen any year now. I'm like, I don't want the Osprey. The best maybe make 05 as a C2 pilot because it's going away. Yes. And no C2 pilots ever usually, as far as I know, command strike groups. Like you don't really get to the admiral level in that community, even though it's the same thing as an E2. It's just you don't have that tactical experience. And so the skipper I pissed off, he signed it, hoping to get your parents a DV tour at the Naval Academy. So if you break down what that means is, if you read between the lines, the Naval Academy, as you guys know, is a national landmark. You can literally go there as anybody and with a driver's license. And it's a base, but it's more like Arlington National Cemetery kind of, so you can just walk on it. So he was being very sarcastic and pissed off. Saying, hoping you get your parents a VIP tour at the Naval Academy because of me getting them on the carrier. So I will, I guess, tell you guys the story of how I got my parents onto a deployed aircraft carrier.
Yeah, I wanted to hear that. Yeah. So the question I have is, did they walk on or fly on?
No, they flew on. Yeah, nice. I all but flew them on. My officer in charge, and that is me flying on that picture of 55. That actually is me in the left seat. I was given that photo. It's not just NEC2. So I'm really proud of that one. And that's the same one on my bail mat. We deployed for 8 months. This is like month 7 of an 8-month deployment. We're coming back from the Persian Gulf and we're in the Med. I think there were 2 carriers in the Med at the time. So we were bombing ISIS. And so things were happening. I think we just stopped. And so it was a little bit of a, relaxing period, I guess, because we're on our way back home. We're in the Med for whatever reason. And this had been a workup situation for many months Okay, so basically, because I was a C2 pilot, I knew how to get people on the carriers, right? Like that's my job is to fly them on. Now, do I, turn a wrench? No, like we're literally the chief would be like, sir, don't touch that wrench. Like, right. So do I put the box on the plane? No, like we're not allowed to because it's not like I'm an officer and they're not. It's like if I do it, I'll do it the wrong way. Like, and then the air crewmen are liable. It's like we fly the planes, the maintainers maintain them, the air crewmen load the boxes, and there are people that assign or control that list we were talking about, repeat of who gets on the carriers. So this is very full circle from the beginning of the podcast. So in Norfolk, like when we're in home guard, we call it, that list is 2 to 3 to 4 years long, right? And my parents are nobody. They're not congressmen. They're not admirals. They're not high donors, if that's even a thing to the military. I mean, they're not even like local teachers. They're from Pennsylvania, and my dad had a 40-year truck business. But overseas, we often flew with empty seats. We would fly with like General whoever and Admiral whoever, and Sailor 1, 2, and 3, and New Marine, E2, 1, 2, and 3, and then sometimes we'd have empty seats. We could fly with up to 10,000 pounds of cargo or 26 passengers, plus 2 aircrewmen, plus 2 pilots, so 30 souls, or a combination thereof. And so basically, I'm putting this together in my head of like, okay, how do I get my parents on the ship? And really, it backs up long before that. So back at the Naval Academy, my parents were for many years involved with the tailgating community. And so the way that tailgating works at the Naval Academy is we tailgate after the game. Excuse me. And the reason for that is because as midshipmen or cadets at West Point, we have to march on to the field. So you march on, you have to be there. You're in uniform, you march on to the game, right? You can't leave the stadium until like literally the last cannon goes off. And then once the game's over, then the tailgating happens. So it's very backwards from every other football experience. So all the tailgating happens at night usually, or late afternoon into the evening. And if you're a plebe, you can't drink alcohol, you can't change in civilian clothes. And so my dad, he had this tailgate, and they would always, like, what music do you want to listen to? Because you can't listen to music, right? When you're a plebe, at least back in my day, they would check your computer, and the iPhone just came out. Like, you literally couldn't have music on anything or videos. So it's a way to relax, right? And then as you get older, if you're like a senior at the Naval Academy, you change into your civilian clothes, you have a beer if you're over 21, and you're very respectful about it. But they threw these huge tailgates, and they became the presidents of the Southeastern Pennsylvania Parents Association. And awesome. They worked with like the New Jersey, a very good friend of mine, but he ran the New Jersey Parents Tailgate. I say that because New Jersey is a very small state, and the Southeastern Pennsylvania is not really a big region, but they threw a huge tailgate every year or every game. And I'm talking like 1,000 midshipmen out of 4,000, right? So, I mean, wow. You're talking massive line, and this is all paid for by the parents, completely like donated their time. My dad was a truck manufacturer. He bought a truck, donated it, had it like painted up, decaled, like with Build a Go. And this is all in the video coming out soon on my channel. And so they donated, I don't know how many tens and tens of thousands of dollars and how many man hours. And my dad has 40 employees at the time, so he's giving up business and whatnot. And so they ran this tailgate. So fast forward many years, when I was on the ship flying C2s, knowing that we have seats and people fly on, I'm like, it's not just my parents. Like, they actually kind of deserve this. Like, they have fed more midshipmen than, and by they, like, they're a representation of so many parents that exist out there. But it's not like I wanted mommy and daddy on the ship. It's like, 1, they're willing to travel overseas. 2, I know the guy who controls the list. 3, they actually are deserving of this opportunity. And so a couple of the people they met at the Naval Academy when I was a mid, they were 05s that became 06s. And those 06s were friends or roommates in one case with the commanding officer of my carrier, right? Like, one guy was a Blue Angel with another guy, Blue Angel, and they were, he was the CAG, the commander of the air group. And then I came in from the bottom basically and can talk to the lieutenant, the ATO, the air transfer officer, who literally controlled the list. So we kind of came in from these different directions, and very long story short, got them on approval to fly into the carrier as long as they're willing to fly out on their own dime overseas. So they flew out to Greece and literally got them on whatever Navy base or whatever the thing is we had over there. Suda, but whatever that is. And yeah, we flew them on. I wasn't allowed to fly them for obvious reasons, because this is where the story comes in.
Mom, watch this.
I did not tell my commanding officer that this was happening or this was an idea that I had. I decided that it'd be better to beg for forgiveness than ask for permission, because I knew the answer would be, I just knew it would be no. Like, no,
I fully condone
the rule
that.
book says I can't.
Yeah, exactly. Right. There's no rule that says you can't have your parents on. And anyway, like, they were vetted. I mean, they were full background checks. I mean, the ship was okay with it. I just didn't go through dad, basically, my boss, and really my OI. I was trying to make this happen, and I just knew because of the climate at the time that it was absolutely going to be a no. Like it just wasn't going to happen. And I'm like, well, that's not good enough for me. So, very long story short, got them onto the carrier, and they're like rubbing shoulders with Big XO. My dad's sitting in the captain's chairs, like they're hanging out with everyone. They loved it. And once people found out like who they were, I mean, there were literally guys on the flight deck, pilots that recognized them from their tailgating days, and like said, hey, I forget your name, but like maybe you hug, you look familiar. This is like with a helmet on, with the eye pro and goggles, and because of what they did, I mean, just they fed thousands of midshipmen. So, yeah, that was the story of how I got my parents onto a carrier, and then also what pissed off the beginning of pissing off my skipper. I had 3 commanding officers. The first one that I ever had when I was a brand new lieutenant before deployment, he loved me and he was a great guy. He gave me POTS after he left because I pissed off his successor, basically, is what it came down to.
Nice.
Yeah. So anyway, that's that.
That's a great call
Sure.
sign.
Yeah.
I like RobRoy better, but that's
for sure. Yeah.
Indeed.
All
right.
I have to go. I got to go back before we get too far down the road, and I'll forget. And I'm already on page 2.5 of taking notes.
Well, Fig, why don't we land the plane and come back next week to it?
God, that makes me sad, but okay.
All right. Hate to do it. Hate to say goodbye to everybody. But first of all, we want to thank you for your service, RobRoy.
Oh, thank you,
Potts.
guys. Yeah.
Thanks, Potts.
Well, thanks for what you're doing with the podcast. I had a podcast myself for 2 years and interviewed many, many guests, and it's a lot of work. So thanks for having me on, and thanks for putting the time in on your guys'
It is a good bit of work, but
awesome.
it's been a hell of a lot of fun. And, we get to get all these stories out there. And that's a great one, man. Getting your parents on a carrier. I can't imagine what a thrill that must have been. So very cool.
Wait, but before we sign off, so did they didn't spend the night. They were out there for the day, and then somebody flew them back to suit up?
We flew them back. We flew 2 C2s out, and one was loaded with stuff, and the other one was loaded with all the DVs. And I was in the one loaded with cargo, and they were they were literally with like, I don't know, the president of Georgia, the country, and all these like NATO generals, and like, here's my mom, like, hey, sweetie, like.
I love that. I love that. Oh,
yeah.
Man, okay, thank you.
Fantastic.
Appreciate that.
Well, very cool. A couple other quick thank yous we need to get out there. Thank you so much to Dave Hamilton over at backbeatmedia.com. Backbeat Media Online handles our advertising. Thanks also to Dave for his other shows, all the know-how he gave us to do our show, because he has 2 other shows of his own. Make that 3. The Mac Geek Gab, the Gig Gab for musicians, and the Business Brain for entrepreneurs. So maybe one you want to listen to being an entrepreneur, RobRoy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So let's see. Who else do we need to thank?
Well, we got to thank Styx, who's in the background right now, making all the magic happen, who's actually probably the brains of this whole damn operation. Thank you, Styx.
Yep. And if you have any questions, you may want to write to Styx at sothereiwas.us. Because if you write to Fig or Repeat at sothereiwas.us, we'll forward it to him for an answer.
Right. Yeah, right. What could possibly go wrong with that?
Yeah. Thanks to Badass over at bdsaviationphotography.com.
Thank you, Badass.
And that's a couple other people we got to thank. I'm just trying to think.
That's the Dos Gringos.
That's
the 2 F-16 guys that make the Air Force sound good, letting us use their music. They were also great.
That's awesome.
Interview guests on our show.
Love that song. That was the first time I've heard that song. That was great.
Listen, they have 4 albums, RobRoy, and there's not one bad song
way behind
on any of them.
You will love that music. A lot of it, 98% of it's pilot oriented.
Perfect.
And they were on a couple shows with us. They lack judgment.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, that was one of the good title. They like judgment.
Don't forget to go check out the cool merch at sothereiwas.us/merch. Get yourself in a bikini before next summer comes around.
I had my
till next week
earlier today, just in case you were wondering.
I didn't need to know that, Fig. Thanks, ma'am. Oh yeah, go sothereiwas.us/rate. Give us a 5-star rating. Tell us how good we're doing, and if you can't give us a 5-star rating, go give someone else a bad rating, or tell us what we're doing wrong, because we are trainable.
We're trainable. You're damn right we're trainable.
Tell us what we need to fix. So, well, in honor of not having an ejection seat handle, I don't know.
I don't know what you say.
Wear
dude.
your parachute.
Don't forget to lock your harness. How's that?
Parachute.
there
We
you
didn't get
go.
a parachute. I mean, we could go on all day.
Shit.
We only got parachutes when we did FCF flights, functional check flights. That was it.
That's not
Something
right.
to the effect of like, if you jump out and you leave the DVs behind, that would look really bad. But
Oh well.
ditching,
guys.
ditching 101, we practice it all the time.
Wrong place, wrong time.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Till next week. Stay safe and check 6.
Well, there I was, crossing the pond, and you could see that I wasn't exactly fond of all the shit I was wearing on that day. Now an F-16 is cramped enough, but it's even worse with all that stuff supposed to save your life. But we knew there was no way. 'Cause when you're going down the North Atlantic, man, it's over.
Hold on. It's what?
He said it's over.
It's over.
Bugging out and going home.
And break. All right. Very cool.
I got a lot
All
of
right.
questions. We got
We got a lot of questions to go. So we got another good second show coming out of this.
Great.
And I've got to find a way to upload the ad for the second show because for some reason the ad I had disappeared.
I got
Oh, well.
here's a question for you guys. So I'm still
Yeah.
live on my channel. I've got a
Yep.
some comments are in my voice. Some comments are coming through that, but I've got a bunch that I can see. You mind if I read them off real quick and
Yeah, sure.
answer those while
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
kind of break them your stuff? So
I think I can see him too.
You
But
c-
go
you
ahead.
yeah, is that true? Yeah, okay, maybe
Is it
not.
Monkey Trumpet?
Oh, there's a bunch. Well,
Yeah.
shout out to T. She's one of my longtime favorites, and shout out to the stupid move from Columbus. He comments on every video. Move from Columbus. It sounds quirky, but he's there the whole time. So let's see, Marine Corps boot
Nice.
camps. Marine Corps boot camp is a cakewalk nowadays.
Yep.
Yeah, I guess
We're seeing those. Okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
okay,
Let's
great.
get those up there.
Yeah. Highest number
All
of
right.
bird strikes in a single flight. I don't know if that's
Yeah.
for me or for somebody else, but for me, I mean, have I had a bird strike? I feel like I think I did like on a landing rollout once, but I don't think I ever had one in the air. But it was very much a thing in like T-45 land in Meridian. I mean, there were birds everywhere. We had the Air Force guy, or not Air Force. I think he was like an Air Force contractor, but you know, the guy that shoots the, I don't know, the
cannon.
firework gun. Yeah, to scare them off.
Scare him off. Yeah.
And you guys have probably seen the videos of like, you know, what were they, the turkey vultures going through the
Oh, yeah.
cockpit. That was a real
Yeah.
thing.
Oh, yeah.
In fact,
Yeah.
real quick one.
My
we
my
had a-
camera stopped working, but as far as bird strikes, I have 11.
Well,
If I
In one
I was
flight?
told if I hit one more, I don't know what up with my camera, but I was told if I hit one more bird with the helicopter that I was going to end up having to buy the maintenance deck chicken wings for a night.
yeah, that's tough. We fly through a flock of them, and that's game over.
Well,
there you
it's
go.
a lot of it is because you're flying. Like I flew in the Coast Guard, so you're going offshore, and there's seagulls, and
Yep.
you know, I'm sure a bunch of them were dump ducks. But anyways,
Yeah.
So we had a Venezuelan major, Air Force major, who was an instructor in T2s in Beeville.
Beeville,
told
you're
me,
dating
you know,
yourself.
he-
You say Beeville.
Yeah, exactly.
He's old.
Well,
He's old, dude.
I'm already
He is way
dating
old.
myself, dude. I was a lieutenant in the Marine Corps when Top Wing was made. You weren't born yet, so
yeah, no, it's true. Yeah, I can't control that, but yeah.
I was at officer candidate school.
And we
Actually, I
had,
knew a guy that was at OCS when Officer and a Gentleman came out, and he was like, it was unbelievable. And then he was at the RAG flying Tomcats when Top Gun came out, and he's like, it was absolutely unbelievable as far as
Oh yeah.
people and women
Oh, yeah.
and just opportunities galore of
yeah.
how much he was adored in the world.
amazing, isn't it? Yeah. So anyway, so back to Major Martin Lan. He wound up hitting a turkey vulture, and it broke his oxygen mask hose. He smelled it, and he wound up puking all over the cockpits. There's blood and guts and puke and all. He gets the airplane back to base, and he's like, "Well, it is true. They really do eat the skunks on the side of the road."
Jeez.
Oh geez.
Oh man.
It was brutal. So
Let's
All right.
turn this thing back on.
yeah, let's relight this thing. All right. Okay. You got another So There I Was for us?
Oh,
Let's see. How about and well, you said you didn't have an ejection seat. I
Yeah.
said, well, still, what's the funniest or scariest thing you saw? Maybe something along those lines. Can you put any thought more into that? Funniest thing at the Naval Academy,
Oh man.
because that's just comedy errors.
Oh
time
yeah.
there.
Yeah. Nonstop. I mean, I'm trying to think. I mean,
Okay.
well, it's not funny, but I got it was the night Bin Laden was killed. I was a senior at the Naval Academy and went bananas. Unlike
Oh,
every
nice.
other
All right.
every
Tell us
other
about
college.
that.
Yeah.
There you go. All right. You back up to the beginning. And here we go. New show.
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
This here is a true story about crossing the pond at night in the world's smallest cockpit on the tanker through the weather. Oh, and to the tanker crew who did that, thanks a lot. We really appreciated that. I'm just kidding.
No, he's not.
No, I'm not. Well, there I was, crossing the pond, and you could see that I wasn't exactly fond of all the...
So there I was, a senior at the United States Naval Academy, the night that Bin Laden was killed, and the place went absolutely bananas in celebration around midnight.
Nice.
What was everybody doing up at midnight, for crying out loud?
Hey,
Right?
they
Cramming for
were.
the next day's exam.
Yeah, I mean, they were.
That's
We were
great.
all getting ready to go to
Oh.
bed, and then just like news started coming out, and people just went crazy. Everyone
Memorizing the
piled into-
breakfast menu.
Yeah, right. Well, the plebes were absolutely as they should be. Yeah.
Oh, man. That was
Well,
a
hey.
thing, huh? You guys had to do that shit as a plebe.
Oh yeah, yeah. We'd have 3 days of meals memorized. So breakfast, lunch, dinner times 3 out. So they'd be like, what do we have for lunch on Tuesday? And you tell them like the whole. And I'm talking. It wasn't like French, or tacos. It'd be like 15 items on the list. I mean, you got to the point where you memorized the first couple sections of each menu were the same. Like, I mean, I'm completely drawing a blank on what it was, but whatever the milk and the juice was, and you just kind of spit those things off. Eventually, you start making up meals. You're like,
And roast pork chop with a demi glaze.
yeah. I wish.
All right. Oh, very cool. All right. So I interrupted you. Sorry. I ruined the whole flow of that damn thing. I'm sorry.
No, I mean,
So, yeah.
so how's the cow? Don't start. How's the cow? Oh man, what is how's the cow? Oh man, you're pulling out some old ones.
So that's from Styx. He threw that banner up there that says,
Yeah,
"Ask
she
Howard
walks,
the
she
cow."
talks, she's full of chalk. I mean, that's things people listening will have no idea what we're talking about. Rates.
I have no idea, but Styx clearly does, or he wouldn't have put the banner.
Yeah, Sticks. Yeah.
Nice.
We had a book called Reef Points. You can look it up. Type in Reef
Okay.
Points Naval Academy, and it's this little blue book. And they've changed over the years, but it's that thick, and it's got all it's called professional knowledge. So random stuff like that, like how's the cow, and it's like this whole response, mission of the Naval Academy, and then it would go into Hornets, E2, C2s, like all the submarines. I mean, it's like basically you're trying to memorize in a hurry what is going on in the Navy and Marine Corps. And you just had to, and they could just, from day one, they could just ask you anything in that book and you were expected to know it, which obviously, yeah, there you go. There's Reef Points.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Pull that
obviously you
banner
don't-
Now we keep that up.
Yeah.
Yeah. No kidding.
Yeah.
That sounds almost like. Do you remember, Fig? Did you have that book at OCS? Your knowledge, break out your
Yes.
knowledge.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is the same sort of thing for the Marine Corps. You had to
I've
sit there and
incorporated
study
that
your knowledge
into my
whenever you were in
everyday
line.
life now.
Yeah.
Rob Roy, I have a question. Actually, I know the answer to it, but I would like for you, because I don't think we could really cover it. We try to define acronyms, and this is I see somebody in the background.
Child
There's
walking in my
yeah.
house. One of mine.
Growler. You said,
yeah.
hey, you were thinking maybe you would try to transition to
Right.
growlers. What is define growler for our non-aviator audience?
So Hornet. I mean, every airplane has a nickname, like Tomcat, Hornet, Viper, all that stuff. The Growler is the E-A18G Super Hornet Growler. It's made by Boeing. No joke inside or jokes with that, but it's basically they took a fighter jet, a Hornet, a Super Hornet. Well, backing it up, they took a Hornet and they created a Super Hornet back in like the late 90s, early 2000s. So they took a known platform, Boeing did, and then improved upon it. And then the
bigger.
Growler replaced the Prowler, and it's a electronic attack platform. So basically, what's nice about the Growler is that it's basically I don't know the number, but let's say 95% same parts as a Super Hornet. So because if you go back to like the 90s in naval aviation on a carrier, like when Top Gun came out, or the 80s, I mean, you've got E2, C2s, Vikings, Tomcats, Hornets, Prowlers. What am I missing? I don't know.
Probably, A4s and Phantoms were phasing
at
out.
some point. Sure. Yeah. You've got, and now today they've got, well, they're about to be E2s, the Osprey, and a version of a Hornet. So and the F-35 is kind of coming on board. But when I was going through, it was just, we had Legacy Hornets, Super Hornets, Growlers, and then E2s and C2s. And so a Growler is a electronic attack platform. You're basically a fighter pilot. I think they drop bombs, but more not necessarily conventional bombs. And that's a Prowler. And then they certainly can shoot missiles, but what they're doing is they're jamming enemy radars. So but what's cool is they can keep up with a Hornet because they're the exact same platform basically. And they can stick with it, fly with it, have about the same range as it, put on the same tanks and all that stuff to extend the range, but they have a much different role to play. And actually my last flight in the Navy was in a Growler. So I got shot off the Roosevelt in the back of a Growler, and that's going to be my last, one of my last videos with my YouTube channel. As far as the Navy stuff goes, is my last flight in the Navy. I got a bunch of GoPro footage of me in a Growler.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that. That was on my list from the last show, and I wanted to make sure we got that out. Also, carrier landings. You I already stated you have landed on all kinds of different carriers because that's what your platform did. What did you end up with in carrier landings? Number?
I think.
Yeah.
So
just curious.
From the left seat, it's got to be in the 80s. Total, it's got to be, I think it's like 130. I added them up because we had two seats, we would switch every time basically. And the way that it worked out was every 3 times I'd fly to the boat, I was in the left. One of the 3, I was in the left seat. So 2 of the 3 usually in the right seat, 1 of the 3. And it all came down to who needed the trap. So I say like I've got 130 carrier landings because like I was in the cockpit part of that mission, like right there for the carrier landings, but I only in the left seat about, I think 80 or so times. And it all came down to who needed the trap. So you can only, I forget, I think it's like 16 days or something. You can only land if you go outside of, what is it, like bits and all, back in the saddle and your requirements, you have to take another trap at the carrier. So if you're up at like 14, 15 days, we would fly out to the boat in the left seat. And usually we would switch. So a lot of my videos, people were like, how come you're always in the left seat? Well, it's because I was flying and hit record. I mean, if I was in the right seat, a lot of times the guys didn't really want me filming their landings or whatnot. It didn't make them comfortable.
Sure.
But I did fly all the time in the right seat, arguably a lot more in the right seat to the ship.
Thank you.
Well, because that was going to be my question. Did you ever land from the right seat though?
No, and you never will. It's a big no-no. Yeah. So another insider information. So basically it came down to if you're we don't call the ball, like during daytime and when you're underway, but if you're like flying the ball or your pilot is flying the ball and you're in the right seat and he dies, worst case scenario, right? Heart attack, right? You would not land that plane from the right seat, nor would you go around, circle back around and land it again. You would wave off, go up to a couple 1,000 feet, have your aircrewman come from the back, pull his body out, and then you would get in the left seat to land that airplane. So it was very much. There's one of my
Okay.
sons. It was very much, built into us, ingrained that you shall land from the left seat. And now on land, we landed all the time from the right seat. I mean, we were very proficient in the right seat, but just that carrier, they're not messing around, and the muscle memory, and always looking to in all the videos, I'm always looking. People are like, what's he looking at? And I'm like, I'm looking at the carrier. Like, it's all about spacing. You guys get it. It's all spacing and alignment. I mean, there's no trees I can reference. It's all like, okay, I'm 1 mile, DME a beam, and looks good. Kind of do some of that pilot shit. And here we go.
Pilar, that looks about right.
Yeah.
So, okay,
it's about right. That's exactly right.
never been in the cockpit of a C2 or E2.
Yeah.
Are the cockpits? And this was a question from one of our listeners.
It is. Yeah, I saw that.
Is it the same layout?
As far as I know, it's the exact same. Maybe 99%. I mean, maybe I don't even think they control. There's my voice. Sorry with sickness. I don't even think they control the dome at all. I mean, that's all the NFOs in the back. Naval flight officers. But I've sat on a bucket in an E2. Like I took off from it in the back, and then they didn't put me in the seat. But it was also when I was on the Truman for my Admiral disassociated sea tour. So I got a flight in an E2, and then I got a flight in a Growler. And I wasn't, at that point still qualified or up to fly the E2 by any means, but we can. Another fun fact. So if you're a qualified aircraft commander in the E2 or the C2, so it goes 3P, 2P, AC. 3P is, I guess, third pilot. 2P is second pilot. AC is aircraft commander. But if you're an aircraft commander in 1 or 2 or one or the other, you can get a letter from your commanding officer, or maybe it's like the other squadron's commanding officer. So in my case, if I was an aircraft commander in a C2, which I was, I could have gotten a letter to fly as a right seater or as a 3P, not landing on the carrier in an E2, because it is literally that similar. But we were not allowed to trap in each other's planes. But I had buddies that flew in E2s, and they logged some time. So they would literally go, when you're a C2 pilot, I mean, you kind of get bored doing the same thing. Like, hey, we're going back to the hotel again, I guess. But like you kind of want to do some of the mission, even though you love leaving the ship every night. And one of my buddies, like, he got to fly in an E2. I think he flew out in the back, but then he got to get some airtime over Afghanistan at the time, in the right seat, because he was at that point a qualified 3P in the E2. Because they're not dropping bombs, or at that point they are a glorified. Not, I guess, a bus driver. They're just a glorified like chauffeur for the NFOs in the back, saying, "Go here, circle this, do that." And they're like, "Okay, that's it. That's all they're doing." Yeah.
Is it set up to fly from either seat equally, or the throttle's closer to the guy in the left seat? You know what I'm saying? Is it more ergonomically?
No, it's equal. Yeah, it's equal. I mean,
so
they're
it's
right
just
in the
a
middle
thing.
there.
You only landed from the left seat on the
only
carrier.
land on the boat from the left seat. We would land on land all the time from the right seat.
Okay.
I mean, at one point I was probably better in the right seat, just because, unlike repeat what you guys do in like the big leagues, we start off in the left seat. This whole captain, first officer nonsense. It's just like, I love naval aviation. How it's like we were in the left seat right away, and then when you get good at that, then you go to the right seat to teach the next guy coming through. It wasn't this like you earn your spot to be in the left seat after however many years. But so we were good at both, and eventually I was probably better in the right seat than I was in the left, because you're flying the new guys.
Well, that's Fig and I like to say, though, at the majors, we're in the left seat because we're much better pilots with far more experience. And finesse.
Yeah.
But it all boils down to how many days you've been there.
That's right.
Totally.
That's right.
Well, and unlike,
But
unlike the majors,
I know what you mean, though.
You guys are switching pilots every flight. I mean, obviously in a squadron, it's like the same 10 guys, and so you kind of get to
fair enough. Yeah. So here's a question that I think I know the answer to, but I bet a lot of people don't. Joystick or yoke?
In the C2, a yoke.
Yeah. Yoke. Okay.
Yeah. Stick in T-34, stick in T-45s jets, and then a yoke sadly in the T-44, which is like a King Air, and then yoke in the C2. So yeah, I miss stick flying big time. I put a deposit down on a Bearhawk as an experimental bush plane. I talk about it in my newsletter, and one of the things I'm excited for is that it's got a stick. So I'm looking forward to flying with a stick again. But I mean, we banked and yanked that yoke a lot behind the boat. It did not get in our way.
I've seen some cockpit videos on YouTube from I don't know if it's the E2 or C2 guys, but yeah, I would wholeheartedly concur with what you just said. There was a massive amount of control movement going on.
Yeah, were they my videos? Is that what you saw, Fig?
maybe.
Yeah.
Do you do yours to music?
No.
Oh, that's the Bearhawk. That was the bear picture.
Yeah, one of the
Sticks
Bearhawks.
had the Bearhawk.
Yeah, that's a Patrol. So that's
Oh,
like a
okay.
two-seater. I think it's a front and back, like a tandem two-seater. What I
Yeah,
want is
looks like a Super
Bearhawk.
Cub with
Yeah. I want a Bearhawk
big Tundra
5.
wheels.
I want a Bearhawk 5. So it's a 6-seater. It is a true 6-seater. I talked to the owner of the company. It can carry 6 200-pound adults, but it's like a four-place with room for cargo in the back. But it would be 2, 2, and 2. But that's what I want. I mean, you see my family walking around, and we live in Montana.
Yeah,
and
it's cool.
Yeah, I want a little backcountry machine. I feel like it's the closest I can get to landing on a boat. Yeah, that's a Bearhawk 5. I think the closest I can get to landing on a carrier again would be flying into some backcountry airstrip in Idaho or Montana.
Nice.
That's my assessment.
Take it up to Alaska.
Yeah, exactly.
So the
All right.
last was up in Anchorage. Go ahead, Fig.
No, you keep going. I'll come back to this.
I was to say I was up in Anchorage and went flying with the son of a friend of mine who lives up there, and watching people land on 400, 500 foot gravel islands in the middle of rivers and that kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the precision with which the bush pilots are flying up there is eye-watering.
I've been told that it's very similar to landing on the ship. I've never done it, but I mean, they're all about energy management. That was our bread and butter, was AOA and angle of attack. And, you're high enough on the power that you can get out of Dodge if you need to, but you're not flaring it, obviously, and all that stuff. Question from Paul there, metal or fabric? So the Bearhawk in particular is a steel frame. Basically think of like a giant, it's like a roll bar in a sense, but with fabric covering. Although the Bearhawk has aluminum wings. So I think it's the best of both worlds. It's got metal wings and a fabric body, and then metal cowling, obviously, but a metal wrapped airframe. But some like the Kit Fox and stuff like that, they are mostly fabric with some reinforced metal pieces. But Bearhawk is a good balance of both, but a lot of fabric for sure.
Okay.
Now, are you building this? Are you going to build this yourself? Assemble it yourself?
No. They have a builder assist program, which costs some money that I'm trying to save up for. But I don't have the time or the inclination to build an airplane from scratch. I think what those guys do, and part of my job now with Flybuyer, my newsletter, I'm very much in that world, and I think it's amazing what these guys can do, and women. I just 1,000 hours minimum. I mean, you're talking maybe 2,000 hours that equates to, let's say, 2 years. I don't have that, and I'd rather. So the build assist program, this is very in the weeds. The way that it works with the FAA and having experimental airplane, not certified. So certified would be Cessna, Piper, right? All that. Experimental is Bearhawk, Kit Fox. And what that means is, RV. Yeah. And for people listening, not an RV trailer, like there's a company called Vans RV, and it's just, anyway, really in the weeds. But a certified airplane like a Cessna, if you want to switch out the cushions of your seat in a Cessna 172, that is a huge process. You can't do it without FAA approval. If you want to put on a new landing light, like it's got to be a certified, and it's going to cost 3 to 4 times as much. Literally. I mean, you can go to Garmin.com and look up avionics, and once that'll be certified, and once that'll be the same thing with an X for experimental. It'll be 3 times the cost for the certified. The exact same avionics, from what I understand. So a Bearhawk is experimental. And so I'm looking forward to that. But no, it's a builder assist program, and I'm looking forward to having them, hold my hand. Literally, they're going to walk me through it. And what I was going to say is, with a builder assist program through the FAA, you have to have 51% hands-on of your airframe. Whether or not it really comes out to that, I don't know. I'll report back in 2 years. But basically, you do have a very active role in building your airplane, but you're not the one with the finishing touches, which is totally fine by me.
Okay. Sweet.
Especially when it's your first airplane.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Oh, my first airplane. Yeah, I don't.
Well, I have peers, and I'm sure Reaper does too, that have, and are in different stages of building something.
Oh, yeah.
And almost all of them say, I wish I just would have paid somebody to put this thing together.
And not all companies or kit manufacturers even offer that ability. So, I mean, the Bearhawk didn't until it just got bought up by a guy a few years, my junior. Another reason why I went with that company, his name's Virgil Irwin. Shout out to BearhawkAircraft.com. And I mean, they're revamping the entire. It's a proven airframe. They've only got a couple hundred that exist, but they're modernizing the whole thing. I mean, what Trent Palmer has done, if you're familiar with that, and like with Kit Fox and the whole bush flying world, he's really opened up the doors for people learning about this industry on a grand scale. And Bearhawk is kind of capitalizing on that. And they really specialize in these bigger airplanes for backcountry purposes, which I'm excited for with my kids.
What kind of motor would you put in that?
So they have, let me look up the exact one. They have a bunch of Lycoming options. Let's see here. If I go to 5, cost aside, they offer the latest is a Lycoming YIO 580, 315 horsepower.
Wow.
I think the usual, like if you really want a big engine that's not that big, it'd be like the 540. That's a typical one. But some airplanes have like a Rotax, which sips fuel like 7 or 8 gallons an hour. But Lycoming is what Bearhawk is going for, and yeah, that's looking forward
for
to that.
our non-aviator listeners. So there I was. These kit build airplanes. Don't correct me if I'm wrong, but by far the biggest expense is probably the power plant.
Oh yeah.
Oh, unless you're going to go crazy with avionics, I'm guessing it's the power plant.
Sure. I mean, the kits are, before COVID, before bush flying YouTube, I mean, they're probably, I don't know, 30,000 to 50,000. Now you can push, 50 to 90, but some engines are 50,000 minimum to 80,000, depending on what you get. And then avionics, you could spend, I don't know, a couple thousand or 50,000 on Garmin, the latest, greatest Garmin. So, I mean, it can be a several $100,000 expense, which is why I'm trying to get my business ramped up so I can pay for it.
Right.
But yeah, but it still is a lot cheaper than probably buying a brand new, airframe that's certified.
Oh yeah, those are completely unreasonable nowadays.
Yeah, I worked for Cirrus Aircraft on the sales team, so I was on the sales team with Cirrus. Yeah, yeah,
okay.
And and people. I mean, those are what $1.3 million for the SR-22Ts, and and the Vision Jets are 3+, and yeah, it's just a trade off, right? I mean, it's just like, do you want? And the last thing I'll say in the whole thing, unless you guys want to keep going, is the difference between certified and experimental. And this is not naval aviation related whatsoever. This is
aside from the cash.
Yeah. Well, aside from the cash and like with experimental, you can put on, like you could go to Napa Auto Parts and get the latest LED light for your certified airplane. That's a Vision Jet.
Right.
Right. But like, you can't do that with a Cessna. But the big underlying difference is that certified, it's all about where's the liability fall? Certified, the liability falls on the manufacturer, just like Ford, Chevy, right? Whereas experimental, it falls on the builder. So it falls on you. And it's like mandated by the FAA. There's a placard when you get into the cockpit of these small airplanes, these bush planes, and it says like, warning, it'll say experimental, like in huge letters across, like in multiple places. And it'll say this airplane is not certified for, whatever, by the FAA. Basically meaning that this was built literally at home, and we did not get eyes on it. And so if you die and kill yourself or kill somebody else, that kind of falls back on you and your liability. Versus if the Cessna or the Cirrus breaks and it wasn't pilot error, then it's going to fall on the manufacturer, and that's where the cost comes in too.
Right.
Okay, can I shift gears?
Yeah, shift, man.
Okay,
Upshift or downshift?
COD Squadron, C2 Squadron. How many pilots? How many airplanes? Just give me average.
We had about, I want to say 25 pilots. I think 20 of them were JOs, junior officers, and front office, skipper and XO made up 2 of those, and then a couple of 04s, so about 25 to 30. And then airplanes at the time we had maybe like 10, maybe like 8 to 12, something like that. How many were up?
That's a different story.
That's classified.
Our chief senior be like, when do you need up by, sir? And you're like, yeah, 1 hour. You got it. Yes, sir. All right.
So
half an hour. I need it in 10 minutes, Scotty.
Exactly.
Did you guys fly a lot, RobRoy? Would you consider, C2 flying? Did you get a lot of flying? What'd you end up with in the COD? How many hours?
About 1,000 in the COD or thereabouts.
After one fleet tour, now that's pretty good.
Yeah, it
shit.
Was. I think
Holy
it was just
shit,
under
repeat.
1,000. Yeah, it was a lot. I mean, it was. Yeah. We get a lot, and then because when I was deployed, I was one of 7 pilots with 1 extra officer who was the maintenance officer, and one of the 7 was our OIC. So it was like 6 JOs, and I was not an aircraft commander at the time for that deployment. I was a lieutenant, same rank, but not in charge of the airplane. And it was usually like 2 lieutenants flying together. So we would just, we're flying to the boat. I flew the boat every other day or every day in some instances, which of course gets mundane. But looking back, like I would love to go flying. I remember complaining about like getting a flight on a Sunday, not on deployment. I'm like, I gotta fly on a Sunday. Now I'm like, what I would give to go fly to the carrier on a Sunday,
Right?
Minus the studying and the headaches and like the stress. But
there's that. But
but unrelated.
So how long did you spend on the carrier deployed as opposed to just going out and hitting it? You said 8 months. Was that?
It was an 8-month deployment. Yeah.
Okay.
And we only slept on it for a couple weeks at a time. Like we were the last ones on. It like pulled out from Norfolk, and then Hornets go on, Growlers go on, E2 goes on, Helos fly on, and then like we come on, right, with all of our. And the cool thing about the C2 community, I don't know if the Osprey can do this, but 2 C2s, right, 2 CODs can carry everything they need to have to sustain their existence overseas, minus like barring a crazy engine part that's needed to be shipped from Grumman or Norfolk Grumman or whatever. But we would stuff that plane with those 2 planes with people, and then we basically, as the ship went east, we kind of started like hop skipping. We would like fly to Portugal, back to the ship, fly to Spain, back to the ship, fly to Italy, back to the ship, back to Greece, right? And then we were supposed to fly from Greece to Bahrain, but we ended up riding through the Red Sea and the Suez Canal, which is interesting. And but then once we were in Bahrain, we were there for 6.5 months, right? Basically, we could like a month transit either way, let's say, or ballpark, and we were completely self-reliant from ourselves. And we had any given time, we had a couple maintainers that were attached to the ship for a couple of days, and we worked very closely with the E2 squadron. So shout out to the E2 guys; they really took care of us, and we took care of them. We would bring them shawarma pizzas and tuxedos that they got made at the local market, all that stuff, and always taking favors and bribes.
But no beer, vodka, or bourbon. I'm sure ever.
No. I did get I forget which carrier it was, but one of the some 06. Who says that? The water, some water purifier, I don't know, like broke on the carrier, and so that the ship had no fresh water. Or they're like limited fresh water, right? So that can only last so long with a couple thousand people on board, and sustaining life. But they really limited washing dishes, so they had us bring like a whole cod worth of paper plates, and they had like no fresh vegetables. And the guy, the 06, the captain, was like, "Hey, Rob, here's $40. Can you go to the exchange and bring me back as many salad bags as you can get just so we can have some greens in the wardroom?" But you take little bribes like that. But we do feel bad, especially at one point we were, like, I mean, the Hornet guys, they were bombing ISIS, all night long for a month. And that is tough. So we would land on the boat at like, dawn, basically, which is their sundown, essentially. So they're all exhausted. And we're like, "Hey guys, what's going on?" Like, "We're here," and then we get out of there and they're just like, "I hate you guys." It's like, well, I wanted Hornets, but no one wanted C2s. So that's what you get.
Yeah,
weird. There you go. It actually seems like a pretty cool mission. You're never going to get island fever stuck on the ship for months at a time.
Right.
You're getting off fairly regularly. And like you say, I'm surprised the captain didn't want some alcohol to sterilize that food. And, So,
for
tell you what, let's take another quick break and come back and talk about a little more of this and then what you're doing now.
Sounds good.
So, thank you, FTI, for what you do to help keep us going.
Hey, fellow aviators. Today, we're diving into something you aspiring airline pilots and those needing an ATP, ATP-CTP, or type rating will definitely want to hear. Flight Training International, or FTIratings.com, since 1993, FTI has been setting the standard for top-tier pilot training.
Exactly, Sticks. But FTI isn't your typical flight school. It's a veteran-founded institution that's all about providing high-quality, cost-effective training across a wide range of airliners. Whether you're training on Airbus or Boeing simulators, they've got it covered. These simulators are as real as it gets. They mimic the exact conditions you'll face out there in the real world.
And these simulators are no joke. Full motion, FAA certified, and the same ones the major airlines use worldwide. So every training session isn't just practice, it's the real deal. Plus, their instructors have been in your shoes. For those transitioning from military jets to commercial airliners, they make that process smooth.
That's right. The instructors at FTI are top notch. We're talking about seasoned professional pilots with military backgrounds and years of experience flying commercial airliners all over the world. They're there to guide you, to teach you, and ensure that you're prepared for everything. So when you take your check ride, everything will feel very, very familiar.
FTI Ratings offers a special program like the ATP CTP training program or Airline Transport Pilot Certification Training Program, which Congress mandated to make sure pilots are fully ready for the demands of modern aviation. And the best part, you can access all of this training right from your iPad at your convenience.
And because we love giving our listeners a deal, we've got one just for you. Mentioned, so there I was when signing up for your first course at FTI and get a sweet $100 off. Whether you're an experienced pilot looking to get a type rating or a military aviator transitioning to commercial, FTI is your launch pad.
So what are you waiting for? Head over to FTIratings.com. That's FTIratings.com. Join the ranks of the impressive alumni, which include pilots from the Air Force, the Navy, even the FAA. If they trust FTI, you can too.
Absolutely. And don't forget, you can use your veterans benefits to cover the cost of FTI. So get ready and prepare for takeoff. Visit FTIratings.com and get started today. Your future as a top-tier airline pilot starts at Flight Training International. That's FTIratings.com. Don't just fly. Soar with FTI.
Oh, man. Yeah. Thank you, FTI, for continuing to support us with that cool stuff. All right. Interesting. I did not put that banner up. Let me get that down. Crap. I'm going to have to cut this out of the show because I have no idea how it got there. But
Did we lose Sticks?
There we go.
Did
Yeah, Sticks is gone. He'll be back. In
he's
fact,
back.
I see him coming back now. So there's RobRoy on picture in front of his mighty C2.
So you can trust that guy because of his mustache.
That's
Look
right.
at that mustache. That mustache is amazing.
That's a Tom Selleck special there, baby.
Yeah,
That is
it could have been
amazing.
6 months in. That's in Bahrain. So that's where we were. It's another fun fact. We have tan flight suits and green flight suits, and by we I mean this is what we did back then. I don't know what they're doing now, but we'd only wear the tan ones when we got to Fifth Fleet, so over in the Middle East. So, which does help, I guess. But
so, and looking at that engine, so what you talked about extending the life of the C2 there at some point, and hang on here, trying to get my notes squared away for later. Tell me about the engine on that thing. I'm noting eight blades on the prop there. Mm-hmm. That looks efficient.
Yeah, they were Allison T56A turboprops. It was like 4,600 shaft horsepower aside. 8-bladed props. They used to be 4-bladed back certainly in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and then sometime in the mid 2000s they switched to 8 blades, which is the same 8-blade, if I'm not mistaken. That's definitely the E2s, but I think like some C-130s have them. What are they? Hamilton, Sunstrand? I don't know. I forget the manufacturer, but 8-bladed props, so great to bite through the air, and then a crap ton of horsepower. And the reason is that if you worst case scenario, you're taking a catapult launch, and you lose an engine right after you go. So like you can't abort the takeoff. You lose an engine, it just dies. With the other engine, you could firewall it, so take the throttle full forward, and you could still fly away, through ground effect, and basically fly away from the water. And that's why it's so much horsepower. And along with that, though, comes a ton of right rudder and a ton of, hence the yoke movements in some of my videos and like fighting in the burble. Do you guys know what the burble is? Well, I'm sure you do, but you're listening.
Yeah, but let's talk about that. Yeah.
Talk about the burble.
So when you land on the boat, I use my hands here like any self-respecting pilot would. Yeah. So the carrier is going this way, right? But the landing area is like this. So as the ship is propelling itself forward, making
About a
wind,
10-degree angle.
right, the landing area is like off to the side. So you actually fly the pattern off of the carrier, right? But as you come around, when you come here to like, base to final basically for the approach turn, you kind of are continuing to go past it to line up on this angled final approach. And along with that, the ship has a big tower, obviously, and that is a big wind blocker. And that creates what's called the burble. So you're flying. Yeah, there you go. So you're flying into the wind, or at least the wind's coming from a certain, like, maybe like 10 degrees from your right, ish. And then the wind goes away because the tower blocks it, and then you're back in the wind again. So it just creates this, as you can see in the picture, swirlies. And so add that in with a ton of horsepower, a ton of, the other thing about flying the ball, an angle of attack, and what that means is that we, as people know, in all the Instagram videos, like Navy pilot versus Air Force pilot landing, and like the Navy guy slams in the deck. I don't know about that. Like on land, we would never slam into the deck. We always would flare. But on the carrier, you absolutely have to fly, on speed, which is the right angle of attack. So in my videos, it's like we have an AOA indexer, and you see an amber circle and 2 chevrons, one red, one green for slow and fast. And we had to be on the amber circle or very close to it. And that is the angle at which our plane is at, so that the tail hook can literally catch the wire at the right angle. And if you were not on speed, right, if you were too fast, you were like this, so the hook would be too shallow. If you were too slow, very dangerous, you could grab the one wire, hit the back of the boat, which would kill you and a lot of people around you. Very scary. Much better to be fast than slow in all things aviation, but certainly behind the carrier. And so that was kind of all the things happening with landing on the boat. So you got the burble, you have an angled runway, we have a ton of horsepower. And so what I mean by that is, like, we have to be up on the power in order to be on speed. And also so that we can, it's like this perfect balance of, if we were any more on the power, we would fly away. If we're any less on the power, we wouldn't have enough get out of jail free like power if something really went wrong. So you're very high on the power. So a lot of times, like, we're flying, and the Hornet guys, you can really hear this in their videos, but we are a really good aviator is not necessarily seesawing it, but we were kind of like we're always like giving it a shot of power.
Jocking the throttles all the way down. Yeah.
Yeah. And the reason for that is because you're trying to keep the ball energized. So Sticks, if you keep that photo up, that's called an IFLOS, for Improved Fresnel Landing Optic System. That is the ball. And you can't really see it in this photo, but you got the green lights and the red lights. But in the middle, that one that is not lit up, there's
vertical
right here.
There it is. Thank you.
So that's the ball. And picture one of those yellow lights being lit up. When it's high, it looks white. When it's low, it's red. Red, you're dead. When you're right on glide slope, it's kind of center, and it's maybe a little high. You want to be a little high, a little above center, and it's an amber-ish color. And the reason for that is because that's literally showing where you are on glide slope coming into land on the carrier. So you want to be on glide slope. And it's much better to be a little high and a little fast on the power, so that you can give yourself a little bit of wiggle room if things started going bad. Because if you got low and slow, I mean, bad things happen, and bad things have happened to naval aviators over many, many decades of hitting the back of the carrier.
Yeah. So for those who still don't understand what's going on, the best analogy I've ever been able to give somebody about what the meatball is and the Fresnel lens and all that is, if you've ever been sitting at one of the newfangled traffic lights where you can see the light that's in your lane and it's very dim or not lit up at all for the light that's to the next lane, that's the technology they're using. It's kind of a focused light, and you can only see it when you're in the right lane. So when you're on glide slope, you see the one that's in the middle.
Right. So, yeah. And if you don't see it and you're behind the ship, that's a very bad day. You're either hopefully too high, or if you're too low, like, I mean, and
Clara high.
Yeah, Clara high. And Clara means like you don't see the ball. Repeat. Is that like I never knew. Is that like clarify? I mean, I always just knew Clara, but like
CLARA. I don't know. Fig, you got an answer to that one? I don't.
I'm asking Sticks.
I just knew it was Clara, and like Clara.
Sticks will know.
So for people listening, you would if you don't see so in the movies, Clara? Like Maverick, you're 3/4 of a mile, call the ball. Maverick has the ball. Right? That doesn't really happen. It only happens at night or in really bad weather for case 2 and for case 3. Case 1 is VMC, beautiful day, and we would usually fly. Well, we'd certainly fly in bad weather, but we never flew at night. We weren't allowed to fly at night. And that's another fun fact with C2isms.
Gig.
Yeah.
That's a really good gig if you can get that.
Right? Yeah, how do I sign up for that?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what all the guys say. But, as a man and as a former naval aviator, it's like, I wish I had that badge of honor. But I think I knew one of the last females to fly at night. She was in my squadron, amazing pilot. And it just, she was a few years, maybe 10 years my senior. C2s used to fly on at night, but the fear was, I don't know if anything ever happened, but the fear was because we break all the time and because we carry on all the important people, if we either A, going to kill somebody landing on the boat at night just for the sake of getting him to the carrier at night, or B, we're going to land on the boat and then get stuck on the boat at night and not be able to do the mission the next day. And they'd rather have the C2 stuck on land to get repaired, obviously, than on the carrier. And so it came down to a safety and this is not really worth it. Like we're contributing to the war effort, but we're not necessarily dropping bombs on anybody, or obviously we're not dropping bombs on anybody. So we do plenty of sunset, and we would land an hour before sunset, take off a minute before sunset, and then we'd fly at night all the time on land. We just would never land on the carrier at night. But I wish I did.
Sure.
I wish I had that.
Okay.
Brag about.
Thanks for the clarification.
Fig, you got any more naval aviation questions? Oh, clarification on my position.
Yeah, so it is clarification. Yeah.
All right. Thanks,
I
Dix.
thought it was Aunt Clara from Bewitched.
Yeah.
I'm confused.
Yeah.
You got to be old enough to know what Bewitched is.
Sure.
But, yeah. Oh, well. So, if you get any more naval aviation stuff, or should we start asking him about his current gig and the things he's doing?
I'm looking back through my notes, and everything that I noted that I wanted to get clarification on or ask, I've already got it.
All right.
So you're Clara good.
Clara, yeah.
So, all right. Well, first of all,
one more
ahead.
question. I was thinking about this.
Classic Fig right there.
When you were talking about the Frenzel lens, the ball. It is gyro stabilized, right? Up to a certain degree. Oh, I did have another question besides this. So once the deck of the ship is pitching beyond a certain limit, it doesn't do you any good. Do you guys have your own LSOs? Does the CODs have their own LSOs?
Yeah, we do.
Okay.
But it is like I thought, and the nickname is Paddles, right? For people listening, I thought about being a Paddles. It's very hard to do that because I told you we fly out with 7 pilots on deployment, one of which is the officer in charge, and there's only 2 C2s. So we have 6 basically pilots because the OIC would only fly to get, stay current. And it was basically doing our detachment, that's what we called our squadron, our mini squadron was a detachment. It was doing them a disservice to go on the carrier and wave to be an LSO. But I mean, being an LSO is a huge badge of honor. It's a pride issue. Like, I think I would have been a really good Paddles, call the ball, Roger, but it's fun because you really get to know what's going on. But the ship really didn't want us there. And our commander, I mean, this is for all C2 pilots. Like, they do exist, but they're very hard because you have to wave. Waving is the term for, you have to watch planes land. I don't know what's called waving because of the old paddles they used to use back in the day.
Wave paddles.
Waving. But you have to do, there you go. You have to do that enough to stay current and to get good. And it's hard to do that when you're only one of 6 guys or girls stationed 100 miles from the carrier on land. Like the E2 guys and the Hornet Bubbas, like they would, being an LSO basically gets them out of duty, gets them out of, all these other things. And they're already on the ships. They would just go they would wave for basically a day, like 24 hours straight, all the cycles. Short answer is yes, we could be Paddles or LSOs, but it was very difficult to do that. And the ship was kind of like, yeah, you guys are Paddles, but I don't think we carried the same clout. It's just because we couldn't physically put in the hours to do it the right way, is what it comes down to.
One last thing, RobRoy. OIC. I know what it is, but what is, you heard that you threw out the term OIC.
Officer in charge.
Thanks.
The head guy. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I always thought of being an LSO as the guy who gets to watch all his buddies fly.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
I will say this,
part of it.
with Paddles,
if you do it.
No, go ahead, repeat. Sorry.
I was just saying, if you do it, you're occupied doing that a lot. So
you are. I mean, but you become a better pilot because of it. Because
it's
you
cool.
literally see thousands of traps and whatnot. And those guys are amazing. I mean, I have the utmost respect for all them because they look at your plane, E2, C2 Hornet, and they know exactly where they can hear it. And if you watch videos and some, my videos or other ones, and why is everyone on the flight deck wearing crazy ear protection and eye protection? The guys in the back are wearing sunglasses and little, foamies in their ear. It's because they need to be able to hear the engines of the planes landing. And they go, okay, like he's a little low, like power. Like they control that whole thing.
It is amazing.
Something else with that, but yeah, it's amazing what they do. And then, every time we land, we get graded on our landings. And so I wasn't paddles, and there's all these there's these like somebody can maybe sticks you can put on the screen, like give me a Google like a landing pass rating from a naval landing signaling officer or something. It would be like OS / right, all this stuff. And what it means is like where you are on glide slope, like in the beginning or at the start, in the middle, at the end, like at the ramp, and it tell you if you're high or low. But you would always get debriefed every single time. Even we would too as C2 guys. Yeah. And so they'd find us on the boat after we land, either that day or the next day, because we were oftentimes gone. And you would have to, not have to, but you would get to listen to your score. And obviously, you are not God's gift to naval aviation.
Little overshoot, high at the start.
Yep.
Ease guns to land.
There you go. And you'd be, and I would, my
no
thing
grade.
I'd say I'd be like, that's what I saw, paddles. Thanks.
Yeah. Thanks a lot.
Like, you just take it. Yeah. Even though like, you're like, nah, I was good, a little high, like all the way down. But you just, take it like, all right, appreciate that. Okay. Fair. No grade. Sure.
Yeah. And okay underline. So, all right.
Yep. Thank you.
Well, yeah, indeed. Thank you. So here's the thing that I've noticed, and I'm a little pissed off about it. In a good way, I guess. We've got lots of people watching us on YouTube. Right now, 8 are watching us, Fig, and 27 are watching RobRoy on his channel. So for everybody watching RobRoy on his channel, this is So There I Was. It's a podcast, comes out every Thursday morning. So find us there. We do the live stream recording of the recording session, but this is just the raw crap here. So, but so thanks. So obviously you have a channel, you put out a lot of videos. Tell us a little bit about that and where your project is moving forward with Flybuyer and such.
Yeah. So like I was telling Fig earlier, the channel is just my name, RobRoy. Again, for people listening to the second episode, if you go to youtube.com/@FlyRobRoy, you'll find me, or just, Google RobRoy Navy, and you'll see my videos pop up. But I just passed 100,000 subscribers recently, and I've built up a little bit of an audience, and
That's great, dude.
They're awesome. Yeah. My subscribers are amazing. I mean, some of them are in here with some comments. And again, sorry, my voice is, I'm about to lose it from being sick. Yeah. But I recorded some videos, all the stuff we've been talking about for fun in 2015, 2016. Excuse me. And it was for my wife at the time and my mom. I was like, I couldn't even afford a second GoPro to match the first GoPro. I had a GoPro Hero 2 and a GoPro Hero 4. And that's significant because the Hero 4 had 4K and the Hero 2 was only up to 1080. I mean, now they're Hero 10 or 12 but some of the videos, if you look at them, one of the screens is actually really clear, and I do split screens, Fig, if you haven't seen it. It's the top is my face and the bottom right. And some of them are the top is really clear and the bottom is a little bit pixelated. That's because it's only 1080. But I record these videos, and what was unique about them is that I decided I was like, the C2 is pretty boring compared to a Hornet, and the cockpit is so cluttered and dark. I mean, we don't have a glass, pan or canopy and all this stuff. We did have a bubble though. We had a window that kind of come out, so you could stick your head to the side and see a little bit. It wasn't just straight back. I think E2 is like this. So I had this kind of GoPro hard arm and with a crazy clamp, and I found the spot and I stuck it out into the little bubble window. And the way it was angled was you could see over my shoulder, so you could see the carrier in all those videos. And the other one I put on us. And at the time, a lot of people, well, a lot of me, the 3 or 4 that ever did it, would only record, on the dash looking forward, or it would be their faces. And so I kind of combined the two. And that's, I think, what made the videos blow up literally to get millions of views, because especially ones my visor's up for whatever reason, because of the, sun not being necessarily too bright, you could see my eye moving, you could see the yoke going crazy. And people are like, what is this guy doing? He doesn't know how to fly. Look at that yoke moving, because they're flying FedEx, these FedEx pilots know everything. And, but you could also see the carrier.
FedEx pilot.
Yeah. FedEx. No, just kidding. You repeat. And from a YouTube standpoint, because I'm a YouTuber now, I guess, it garnered a lot of comments and interest, and so the video therefore kind of pops. And it's not just in my first couple of videos, I just upload raw. I did the split screen, but there's no music in them, and I wasn't doing any voiceovers. Then I started doing voiceovers about a year ago, and I already at that point had millions and millions of views on the videos. But I noticed a trend. When the videos first came out, it was this guy, that, who is this guy, or what's this guy doing, or whatever. And then now it's oh, hey, Rob, because I would introduce myself in the videos. Hey, this is me. This is not some lad Bible or some supercar blondie nonsense of some video being posted on the internet, on the interwebs. And so that's how my channel started off. And then I was going to pivot to a new channel, but I've since decided to. So I was going to pivot my current channel, but I've since decided to start a new channel, and it's going to be called Flybuyer, I believe, as of today. And it's to support my new business. So I am starting a business called Flybuyer. And for my viewers listening here, they're tuning in. Some of them are part of my newsletter, and I have a weekly newsletter at flybuyer.com. That's FLYBUYER. And it's a free newsletter. I would love if you signed up. If you are a pilot, if you touch an airplane to work on it, if you love aviation, if you are a rich, business owner and you fly business aviation, anybody that really is around general aviation, this newsletter is for you. But really, it's kind of phase 1 and 2 of my plan. So Flybuyer will ultimately become a real business in the aircraft space. But right now, as it exists, it is a newsletter. And what I want to do is I'm going to start. I've already done, and maybe Sticks, we can show. A photo. I've started to do airplane reviews. So I am doing full on. I call them reviews. That's me in front of a Vision Jet 2 weeks ago. But they're really airplane walkarounds. They are walk-around videos. I am not an expert on every airplane. I'm barely an expert on one, or at least I used to be. So the videos are really from more of a, I can talk the talk being a pilot, but I'm not type rated any of these planes. I don't know the ins and outs. I'm more seeing it from a first time perspective. In the case of that Vision Jet, I sit in the back of the airplane and I'm like, okay, I'm 6 foot, 200 pounds. My knees are hitting this, or, the seat swivels this way. Oh, here are the cup holders. It really is. If you watch car reviewers on YouTube, it's kind of the same thing. That's the Freedom Fox, Trent Palmer's plane. I flew out to Reno to film that a few weeks back, right before he sold it. And if you picture those photos you just put on the screen, picture 50 or 100 of those will be the thumbnails of the new channel. And that will be the entire direction of Flybuyer. And so I was going to pivot it from my current channel, but being really in the weeds with YouTube, it seems that I would probably get punished by the algorithm, which algorithm is really a fancy word for the audience and people like in our comments, real people listening or watching the videos. Because people like T and my other fans, they signed up for carrier landings and catapult shots. And YouTube tells me that those people watch other carrier landings and catapult shots. But doing an airplane walk around video, and to be clear, these aren't even going to be flying videos. They're purely on the ground. If I could start the airplane up, that'd be great. But I'm going to be doing G6s and G5s and also some random home build airplane. I can't go flying in every single one of those. But that is going to be my new channel starting. And then the idea is that RobRoy, my current channel, will live on because I'm very proud of that channel. And as we mentioned before in this podcast or the other episode, I'm going to get a Bear Hawk and have some backcountry bush flying under my belt at some point. And I want to kind of make that a backcountry, like a continuation of my flying channel. One of the visions I actually have in life is to bring homeless people or veterans or, kids from the inner city. Literally take somebody in New York City, and I'd love to be able to fly them out commercially or private. That'd be even better. And 24 hours later, they're in Montana, and we go flying in the backcountry and land and go camping for 2 days. That's what I want to do. I'd love to give back to people like that. So that's probably what my channel will become in a couple of years. But Flybuyer, my new channel that will be launching very, very soon, is going to be full airplane reviews. And to sum this whole thing up, if you watch Doug Jamiro on YouTube or any car reviewer, picture that, but for airplanes. And that's my new shtick.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I wish you nothing but great success, my friend.
Yeah. Thanks, Fig.
Repeat, you are muted. We have no idea what you just said. Please come back.
No, I was just saying, man, that's nice. And clearly you've done something right to get 100,000 viewers. Obviously doing cool shit like flying it off carriers cool. And filming it is,
it is cool.
Amazing.
And I wish I, knew what I knew now. I'd be like, hey guys, we're going out to the ship. I would do it very differently.
Right.
I just filmed it for fun.
Did it for your own.
Yeah. And then, but it's worked out. It's been fun to see that grow.
Yeah. Very cool. Awesome. Well, I think we, I'm going to sign up to that newsletter. It sounds really cool.
Yeah,
and, I have to come look at my Grumman Tiger. She's in the paint shop right now. So
I flew a Grumman Tiger. I had an E2 buddy that owned a Grumman Tiger, and they get paid him like $50 an hour to renting out, and I pay for my own gas. And
Nice.
he like let me and some other E2C2 pilots fly. It's a great little plane. Love the Grumman
Nice.
Tiger.
Yeah.
But yeah,
It went in
definitely
for a
the
4 to
Grumman
6
Tiger.
week.
And
It went
and
in
I'll
for
say
a 4 to
this.
6 week paint job, and here we are
Oh.
5 months later. I'm bound to get it back any day
Oh,
now.
geez.
So.
And you're up in New England, right? Repeat.
I'm in New England. The airplane's
Yeah.
actually down in Florida. Part of the delay was 2 hurricanes.
Right.
One
that
was
would-
a direct
that would do
hit,
it.
and
Yeah,
fortunately,
yeah.
the guy who had the shop bolted the hangar doors together
Mhm.
into the floor, so
Great.
it
Yeah, I've
survived.
got half my family's in Southwest Florida, so they had the same fate a little bit. But yeah, on that note, I would absolutely love to review that airplane. And for people listening, this is kind of my ask: if you have really any airplane, but the more unique or expensive or cool, the better. But the Grumman Tigers, the Cessna 172s, like all that, I want to do. I'm not trying to review this airplane is N number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like, I'm not trying to do that. I'm trying to say, like, this is the Grumman Tiger, right? And like that would be my Grumman Tiger video, unless like a 2025 version magically came out or whatever. But then it'd be like, this is my MiG video. This is a C. I'm gonna do a C1 trader. Like, this is my C1 video. I've done the Vision Jet. Like, that's the Vision Jet video. There's not gonna be another one. I did Trent Palmer's Freedom Fox. That's gonna be my Kit Fox video. I've done a Piper Saratoga 2 TC, and I did a Kodiak 100 and a PC 12. So like the idea is that, and this really leads into what Flybuyer will become eventually. I'm trying to build up a video library of airplanes so that when people, pilots or buyers, and that whether that's a corporate buyer, like guy sits in the back of the airplane, or an owner operator, wants to see the airplane, and then go to Flybuyer and look up all the different reviews of the airplane. And no, it's not flying. Do I wish it was? Maybe. But at the same time, I think it kind of takes out the noise and the clutter, because planes fly the way they fly. But I really want to show, like, oh, this is a cargo plane. Like, how much cargo can we get in there? I mean, oh, maybe we put car seats in the back. Can car seats fit in this thing? I mean, what does that look like? Or where do your knees actually hit? And then, of course, little avionics overview and whatnot. But, I'm not an expert on these planes, like I said before. So it really is going to be just as many, like, if you own really any airplane, but if you own anything unique, whether that's a MiG or the Goodyear blimp or have access to or fly, I want it all. I mean, any like these random Scottish Bulldog. I've had people reach out to me with all kinds of airplanes. It's just getting to where they are across the country is my next challenge. So they could send me an email. If you send me an email at rob@flybuyer.com. So FLYBUYER. Sign up for the newsletter. That'd be great. But send me an email if you got an airplane, and love to figure out a way to film that one for my new channel.
Outstanding. All right.
That's exciting shit, man. I hope it goes gangbusters for you.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
It's a new venture, for sure.
I think it will. You got plenty of followers that can't help but get a little bit going. So
yeah, exactly.
So, all right.
But I mean, it's one thing to leave an audience with 100,000 subscribers and start with one from zero. That was a tough pill to swallow. But it kind of came down to, it would be better to start with 100% of a new audience that really wants to be there versus taking 10 to 20% of my old audience. And like YouTube would, serve, like, if I go from carrier landing catapult shot to like Vision Jet walk around, the algorithm is going to say, well, this video sucks because no one's watching it. And then like, therefore all my other videos would basically not perform well. But if I start at zero and showing those pictures that Sticks did earlier, I mean, those would be the thumbnails. I mean, those would be like literally.
And you can absolutely advertise on your current channel. People aren't going to be upset about that. So
yeah, I'm going to do a transition video. Like, I'm going to have at least one video saying this is what I did in the Navy, this is what I'm doing now, and then the channel's not going to die. I'm very proud of my current channel, and very. But yeah, this is going to be the new one, and that's where I'll put my focus effort into moving forward.
All right.
Maybe those assholes over at So There I Was can pimp for you a couple.
Maybe we'll see.
Times every once in a while.
And maybe you could plug us to your 100,000. Yeah,
absolutely. We're doing it right now.
10 times what we got. So yeah. So anybody listening on the live stream, come give us a check out. We've got a bunch of naval aviators and Marines and Air Force, and some amazing stories we've had, including yours. So thank you so much for your service and for joining us today and taking time out of your day to tell us about what you've been doing and what you're going to do. That's great.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, a great story, RobRoy. Thank you for your service. Thanks for everything.
Sticks is the real unsung hero of this podcast.
He is.
He really
Sticks
is. He's doing some great production work, and what a grateful.
Those guys are in the background making the magic happen.
Whatever you're paying them, double it.
Oh yeah,
there you go. Right,
they're doing it for the big bucks. Let me tell you.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. So,
There's Sticks, and sometimes Bago. Bago isn't here today. He's actually having to work for a living. So, and thanks to Dave Hamilton over at backbeatmedia.com, helps handle all our advertising. And who else do we need to thank, Fig?
Well, we need to thank, we did. So I say thanks to Sticks and Bago. We also need to thank BDS Aviation Photography, Badass, Brad Silcott, for letting us use those awesome pictures that he provides.
Absolutely. Thanks to FTI Ratings for continuing to support us. Looks like Robin's Bird Brain Design is going to come back for Christmas to support us too. So, thanks to them. And we got another advertiser in the wings. Looks like they're coming in, so that's helpful. We're deeply appreciative of that. We'll talk more about that very soon. Thank you to the Dos Gringos for letting us use your music.
You gringos, man.
Help make us sound better. Fantastic stuff. Some not for your under 7-year-olds though. They are not going to.
No.
A little bit raw, too raw.
Someday.
Yeah, someday.
Yeah.
So it's definitely R-rated music, but good stuff. So, all right. Well, thank you for every new lips. Going to try and talk.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us today.
Yeah. What Fig said.
Yeah.
Thanks to you guys. Appreciate it. Big
thanks, RobRoy.
Repeat and Sticks. Thanks for having me on. And just, again, as a former host myself, I appreciate the work you guys are put into it behind the scenes. I know it's a lot, and we're grateful. Thanks for sharing my story, and best of luck with the podcast. Hope to see it grow and grow.
We appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Until next week, stay safe and check 6.
See ya.
Well, there I was, crossing the pond, and you could see that I wasn't exactly fond of all the shit I was wearing on that day. Now an F-16 is cramped enough, but it's even worse with all that stuff supposed to save your life. But we knew there was no way. 'Cause when you're going down the North Atlantic, man, it's over.
It's definitely.
He said it's over. He said it's over.
Picked the wrong week to quit sniffing glue.
You can't fix stupid.
And we are out. Yeah. All right, lads. Boom.
Thanks,
all right.
Sweet.
You're a great interview, dude. Nice job.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, that was a nice, fun show. Nice and smooth. Good conversation. Thank you.
Yeah, I hope I didn't ramble too much.
Not at all.
No, you're
Not
awesome, dude.
Good stuff. Yeah.
No, you're good.
Like I said, love talking about myself, like any naval aviator does.
Like any self-respecting naval aviator.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
About me.
I'm gonna
Let's
end the
talk about
stream,
planes.
everybody.
Yeah,
Take care.
exactly. Yeah. Thanks,
Be
guys.
safe.
Peace.
Appreciate it.
Let's see. Oh, today is the 6th that we're live streaming this. We're going to live stream again on the 11th with KC, Kim Campbell, Hog Driver.